This verse that we're going to talk about today has put fear in the lives of many people, and it's put fear there because they don't understand what the Apostle Paul is talking about. What is the verse? 2 Corinthians, the 5th chapter, verse number 10. For we must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ. Oh no, the judgment seat. Well, notice that the Apostle Paul says we must all. Now, who's he talking to? You know, again, we need to take this in context. Who is he writing to? Is he writing to unbelievers? No, he's writing to the church at Corinth. He's writing to people that have just been reconciled to God. He's writing to a church that's come back, and they've come back to a place where they're again on fire for the Lord, and they're moving ahead in their salvation. And then he writes to them and he says, for we must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ. Well, right before that, the Apostle Paul said we need to do things that are pleasing to the Lord. What's Paul talking about? First of all, we need to understand that in the Bible there are two judgments. The first judgment is the one that many people think about when they hear the word judgment, and it's what the Bible would call the white throne judgment. What is the white throne judgment? At the white throne judgment, it's going to happen, all of the inhabitants of the world, from past to present, all of the inhabitants of the world are going to stand before God. The sheep are going to be on the right side. The goats are going to be on the left side. In other words, the believers are going to be on the right side. The unbelievers are going to be on his left side. And he's going to say to the sheep, you're going to heaven. That's all that's going to happen. But then he's going to look at the unbeliever and he's going to say, bring out the books. Oh, here's all your deeds, all the sins that you've ever committed against me. Depart from me into eternal fire. That's the white throne judgment. That is not what the Apostle Paul is talking about. Here the Apostle Paul says, we must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ. The word judgment seat is actually one small Greek word. It's bema. What is the bema? The bema is a seat at an athletic event. Have you ever watched tennis? And in a tennis match, there's this umpire that sits up on a seat, usually right on the net, and he calls all the shots. What's that seat called? Well, in the Greek, it would be called the bema seat. Why? What is the bema seat? The bema seat is a place that doesn't determine whether a person is an athlete or should be competing. A bema seat determines the actions of an athlete. Let's go to the Isthmus Games, which the Corinthians were very familiar with. In the games, there would be a person that would sit on a seat and he would judge the wrestling match, or he would judge the race. And he would say, no, you did something that's not legal. You did something that's not right. What was he doing? Was he judging the athlete? Was he saying, you know what? You're suspended. Out of here. No, he's not being like an umpire in a baseball game. He's judging whether that athlete's actions were right. in this verse, the Apostle Paul is not talking about the judgment of the athlete or the person. He's talking about the judgment of their actions. Now let's go back to the verse. For we must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ, so that each one may be recompensed for his deeds in the body. What's the purpose of the judgment seat? Now, if you were to look at this in the language that the Apostle Paul wrote in, you would find out that the Apostle Paul is not talking in a negative way. He's talking in a positive way. He's saying so that each one may be recompensed for his deeds in the body. And you know what? I've heard these preachers, and God's going to get you. He's going to get you. No, that's not what Paul is talking about. He's talking about that God's going to give you a reward. He's going to look at your actions, and he's going to say, look at that. Look what they did for me. Look what they did in helping that homeless person. Look what they did as they preached the gospel. Look what they did when they gave that money to that missionary. Look what they did. And they supported their pastor. Look what, I am going to recompense. I'm going to reward them. Now notice what he says. I am going to reward them for what they have done in the body, in this tent, in this temporary tent. I want you to understand one thing. This temporary tent, we shouldn't minimize it, even though we've been talking about our immortality all through this week. Please don't minimize the things that you have the opportunity to do in this tent, because what you do in this tent, in this body, this word body here is the Greek word sarx. It means our fleshly, our living body, not just a piece of meat, but our living body. What you do in this living body is going to cause you to have reward, recompense. The day that we stand before Christ at the judgment seat, he's going to say, okay, that was done with the right motive. That was done with the right purpose. That was done in my will. Therefore, I give you this recompense, this reward. And then goes on to, in verse number 10, as our time is running out, according to what he's done. According to what the believer has done, there's going to be a reward. There's going to be a reward in heaven. And it's going to be a reward that will not rust. It's going to be a reward that will not fade. It's going to be a reward that's not determined on the stock market. It's going to be a reward that's going to be eternal. And then the last thing is says whether it was good or bad. God's going to look at all that we've done as believers, and he's going to say, that was good. Here is your recompense. No, that was bad. That was done with the wrong motive. Sorry, that's gone. That's out of here. That's burned with fire. Thank you for watching today. God bless you. Join us again tomorrow.